The mining station on Kepler 442b had been quiet for 3 weeks. Too quiet for Marcus Chen's liking. The 32-year-old engineer had volunteered for the Outer Rim assignment partly for the solitude, but mostly because nobody else wanted to babysit automated mining equipment in a system where 3 different alien factions were fighting over territorial claims. Marcus wiped sweat from his forehead as he climbed down from the primary extractor. The machine had been making strange noises for days, and he'd finally traced the problem to a worn bearing assembly. Nothing he couldn't fix with the right parts and some patience. What bothered him wasn't the mechanical failure. It was the feeling that something was watching him. The red dwarf star cast an eerie crimson glow across the rocky landscape, making shadows dance in ways that kept Marcus on edge. He'd been alone on this rock for 8 months, maintaining the automated systems that stripped valuable rare earth elements from the planet's crust. The work was simple enough, but the isolation was getting to him. A metallic crash from the storage compound made Marcus freeze. His hand instinctively moved to the plasma pistol on his hip. Pirates had hit mining operations before, but they usually announced themselves with ship signatures on the sensors. His scanner showed nothing. Marcus approached the storage area carefully, keeping low behind the equipment containers. The main door hung open, twisted metal suggesting something had torn through it from the inside. But that was impossible. Nothing was stored in there except spare parts and emergency supplies. Inside the darkened warehouse, Marcus activated his helmet's light beam. Crates were scattered everywhere, their contents spilled across the floor. In the center of the destruction, something moved. Marcus raised his weapon, finger on the trigger, when the light revealed what looked like a woman. She was tall and pale, wearing form-fitting dark clothing that seemed to absorb light. But her ears were pointed, her skin had an odd, translucent quality. And when she turned toward him, Marcus saw eyes that glowed with an inner red light. "Stay back," she said in accented but clear English, her voice carrying a musical quality that made Marcus hesitate. "I don't want to hurt you." "Then maybe don't break into my storage facility," Marcus replied, keeping his weapon trained on her. "What are you?" The woman, if that's what she was, clutched her side. Dark liquid seeped between her fingers. Blood, Marcus realized, though it was nearly black in the red light. "My name is Vexaria," she said. "My ship crashed nearby. I need shelter until my wounds heal." "Wounds heal?" Marcus noticed the tear in her clothing revealed skin that was already sealing itself together. "What the hell are you?" "I am Sanguinari," she said simply. "You would call us vampires, though that term carries many misconceptions." Marcus nearly laughed. "Vampires?" "Right. And I'm supposed to just invite you in for tea?" Vexaria swayed on her feet. "I understand your skepticism, but I'm dying. My ship was shot down by Krathari raiders. They're hunting me." As if summoned by her words, the facility's perimeter alarms began shrieking. Marcus's scanner lit up with incoming ships, 4 small attack craft bearing the distinctive heat signatures of Krathari vessels. "Shit," Marcus muttered. The Krathari were known for their brutality. They took what they wanted and killed anyone who got in their way. If they were hunting this woman, they wouldn't hesitate to eliminate any witnesses. "I can fight them," Vexaria said, struggling to stand. "But I'm too weak. I need blood to heal properly." Marcus stared at her. "Blood? You're actually asking me to—" "Not much," she interrupted. "Just enough to restore some strength. Otherwise we both die when they arrive." The Krathari ships were descending rapidly. Marcus had maybe 3 minutes before they landed. The mining station's defenses consisted of a few automated turrets that might slow down a determined attack for 30 seconds. "This is insane," Marcus said, but he was already holstering his weapon. "How do I know you won't kill me?" "Because," Vexaria said, meeting his eyes, "killing you would be wasteful. and the Sanguinari do not waste potential allies. Against every instinct screaming in his head, Marcus extended his arm. Make it quick. Vexaria moved with surprising gentleness. Her bite was nothing like the violent attack Marcus had expected. There was a brief, sharp pain, followed by an odd sensation of warmth spreading through his arm. She drank for perhaps 10 seconds, then pulled away. That's enough, she said. Already her wounds were visibly healing, and her eyes burned brighter. Thank you. Marcus Chen. How do you know my... Your thoughts are very loud when I'm feeding, she explained apologetically. It's involuntary. Marcus felt slightly dizzy, but otherwise fine. Can you actually fight those things? Now I can. Vexaria moved toward the door with inhuman grace. Stay inside. This won't take long. The first Crithari ship touched down outside the facility. Crithari were reptilian humanoids, twice the size of humans, with natural armor plating and a pack-hunting mentality. 4 ships meant at least 20 warriors. Marcus watched through the window as Vexaria emerged into the crimson twilight. The first group of Crithari rounded the corner of the facility, weapons raised. They saw her and stopped, apparently confused by the lone figure standing in their path. What happened next defied everything Marcus thought he knew about physics. Vexaria moved like liquid shadow. One moment she was standing 30 meters away from the lead Crithari. The next she was behind him, and his head was rolling across the ground. The others opened fire, but she was no longer there. Marcus lost track of her movements. She appeared and disappeared like smoke, striking with claws that cut through Crithari armor like paper. Their weapons couldn't track her speed, and their team tactics fell apart in seconds. The second ship's crew tried to provide air support, but Vexaria leaped impossible heights, landing on the craft's hull and tearing through its engines with her bare hands. The ship crashed in a spectacular explosion that lit up the landscape. The remaining Crithari retreated to their ships, but it was too late. Vexaria moved through them like a force of nature. Within minutes, the threat was eliminated. Marcus stepped outside, his legs shaky. The facility grounds were littered with Crithari bodies and burning wreckage. Vexaria stood in the center of it all, barely breathing hard. That was... Marcus struggled for words. Necessary, Vexaria finished. They would have killed you after questioning you about my whereabouts. Why are they hunting you? Vexaria's expression darkened. Because I discovered something they want to keep hidden. Something that threatens not just the Sanguinari, but every species in this sector. Marcus felt a chill that had nothing to do with the planet's thin atmosphere. What kind of something? The Crithari have formed an alliance with the Devourers, she said. They're planning to harvest entire worlds, starting with inhabited systems. The Devourers were nightmares made real. An ancient species that consumed the life force of entire planets, leaving behind dead rocks. Most spacefaring civilizations considered them extinct. That's impossible, Marcus said. The Devourers haven't been seen in centuries. Because they've been waiting, Vexaria replied. Building strength. The Crithari promised them feeding grounds in exchange for power. Billions will die. Marcus sat down heavily on a supply crate. Why tell me this? I'm just a mining engineer on a backwater planet. Because, Vexaria said, moving closer, you helped me when you had no reason to. That speaks to character. And because your species has something the others lack. Which is? Adaptability, stubbornness. The refusal to accept impossible odds. She smiled, showing fangs. Humans have a reputation in certain circles. You don't know when to quit. Marcus laughed bitterly. Great, so we're cosmic underdogs. The best kind, Vexaria said seriously. I need to reach the Galactic Council with this information, but my ship is destroyed, and the Crithari will send more hunters. The nearest council outpost is 6 systems away, Marcus pointed out. My transport won't make it past the first patrol. Not alone, Vexaria agreed. But I have contacts, other species who suspect what's coming. If we can reach them, you saved my life. That creates a blood debt among the Sanguinari. I am bound to protect you until it's repaid. Marcus looked at the destruction around them. And if I say no? Then you die when the next wave of hunters arrives in approximately 6 hours, Vexaria said matter-of-factly. They'll trace the wreckage here. Some choice. Marcus stood up. Decision made. What do we need to do? First, we salvage what we can from my ship. Then we modify your transport for stealth running. I'm an engineer, not a miracle worker. You'd be surprised what humans can accomplish when motivated, Vexaria said. Besides, I have some technical knowledge that might help. As they walked toward the crashed remains of her vessel, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that his quiet life was officially over. But looking at the alien woman beside him, vampire, warrior, and apparently his new partner, he realized he didn't mind as much as he should have. The ship was a sleek craft unlike anything in human design, its hull composed of materials that seemed to bend light around them. Most of it was damaged beyond repair, but the core systems looked salvageable. The power core is intact, Vexaria said, running her hands over smooth panels. And the navigation computer. With these, we can upgrade your transport significantly. Won't they be incompatible with human tech? Sanguinari technology is modular by design. It adapts to existing systems. They worked through the night, Marcus providing technical expertise while Vexaria handled the alien components with practiced ease. Her knowledge of engineering rivaled his own, and her enhanced strength made quick work of heavy lifting. As dawn approached, painting the sky a deeper red, Marcus stepped back to admire their work. His transport looked like a completely different ship, sleek additions seamlessly integrated with the original hull. The stealth field will hide us from most sensors, Vexaria explained. And the enhanced engines will cut our travel time in half. What about weapons? Your mining lasers are more powerful than you realize. With some modifications, she made adjustments to the control panel. They'll punch through most ship armor. Marcus shook his head in amazement. You've basically turned my cargo hauler into a warship. A small one, Vexaria corrected. But it should be enough to get us where we need to go. And where exactly is that? The Nexus station in the Vega system. It's neutral territory where multiple species maintain embassies. If we can reach my contact there, we can warn the Galactic Council, Marcus finished. More than that, we can gather allies. The Sanguinari are not the only species who've noticed unusual Crithari activity. Marcus began the launch sequence, his hands moving automatically over controls he'd operated thousands of times. But everything felt different now. He was no longer a lonely engineer maintaining mining equipment. He was part of something bigger, more dangerous, and infinitely more important. Marcus, Vexaria said as the ship lifted off, you should know that helping me has marked you. The Crithari will hunt you for the rest of your life. Thanks for the warning, Marcus replied dryly. A little late, but I appreciate the thought. I'm serious. They don't forgive, and they don't forget. Marcus engaged the stealth field and set course for the Vega system. Then I guess we better make sure this works, because I'm not spending the rest of my life running. As Kepler 442b fell away behind them, Marcus caught Vexaria watching him with an expression he couldn't quite read. What? He asked. Nothing, she said. I'm just beginning to understand why humans have such an interesting reputation. The stars stretched into lines as they entered hyperspace, leaving the mining station and Marcus's old life far behind. The journey to Vega system should have taken 3 days with Marcus's original transport. With Vexaria's modifications, they made it in 18 hours. But their arrival at Nexus Station revealed a problem neither had anticipated. "That's a lot of ships," Marcus observed, studying the scanner display. Hundreds of vessels surrounded the massive station, from sleek diplomatic cruisers to bristling military escorts. "Is there always this much traffic?" "No," Vexaria said, her voice tense. "Something's wrong." Nexus Station was a marvel of cooperative engineering, built by 7 different species as neutral ground for trade and diplomacy. The central hub alone was larger than most cities, with docking arms extending like spokes from a wheel, but today it looked more like a fortress under siege. "Incoming transmission," Marcus announced, patching it through to the main speakers. "Attention approaching vessel," came a crisp voice speaking Galactic Standard. "Nexus Station is under lockdown. All traffic is being diverted to holding patterns pending security clearance." Vexaria cursed in a language that made Marcus's ears itch. "They've beaten us here." "Who? The Krathari?" "Worse. Look at the ship configurations around Docking Bay 7. Marcus adjusted the scanner focus. A cluster of elegant vessels with distinctive energy signatures surrounded one of the major docking ports. "Those look familiar." "Sanguinari diplomatic fleet," Vexaria confirmed. "But they're not here for normal negotiations." A new voice cut across the communication channel, this one carrying the authority of someone used to being obeyed. "This is Admiral Kethmore of the Sanguinari Hegemony. The individual you're seeking is aboard that vessel. Surrender her immediately." Marcus looked at Vexaria, who had gone very still. "Friend of yours?" "My commanding officer," she said quietly. "And my father." "Your what?" "It's complicated." Vexaria moved to the communication controls. "Admiral, this is Vexaria. I'm requesting immediate audience under right of blood." The response came after a long pause. "Denied. You are in violation of direct orders and classified information protocols. Surrender yourself for judgment." "Like hell," Marcus muttered, but Vexaria held up a hand. "Father, listen to me. The Krathari alliance with the Devourers is real. I have proof. You have paranoid fantasies and stolen intelligence," Admiral Kethmore replied coldly. "Report for containment immediately." Marcus watched Vexaria's face cycle through emotions he couldn't fully read. "They don't believe you." "Worse than that. They already know." Her eyes met his. "The Sanguinari leadership has decided the threat is manageable. They're going to let it happen. Let billions of people die? Better other species than ours," she said bitterly. "The hegemony believes they can negotiate with the Devourers, offer them uninhabited worlds in exchange for leaving Sanguinari space alone." Marcus felt sick. "And you disagree?" "The Devourers don't negotiate. They consume everything. Once they finish with the other species, they'll come for us too." Vexaria activated the ship's tactical display. "We need to reach the council chamber directly." "Through all those ships? In case you hadn't noticed, we're outnumbered about 300 to 1. "I know another way." Her fingers danced over the navigation controls. "Nexus Station has maintenance tunnels that connect to the diplomatic sections. If we can reach Docking Bay 12, that bay's on the opposite side of the station from the diplomatic fleet." "Exactly. Less chance of immediate detection." Marcus studied the tactical display. Bay 12 was currently empty, but the approach vector would take them dangerously close to several patrol routes. "What about after we dock? Those maintenance tunnels weren't designed for people." "They weren't designed for humans," Vexaria corrected. "I can navigate spaces you couldn't fit through, and you can access systems I couldn't reach." "Teamwork. Got it." Marcus began plotting a course. "What about your father? Will he really try to stop us?" Vexaria was quiet for a long moment. "Admiral Kethmore is a patriot who believes the Sanguinari come first, always. If he thinks I'm threatening our species' survival, he'll kill me himself." Cheerful family dynamic. We're not human, Marcus. Family bonds are different for us. Marcus engaged the engines, taking them on a wide arc around the station's defensive perimeter. Different how? Survival of the species trumps individual relationships, always. Sounds lonely? It is. Vexaria monitored the scanner for pursuit. Your species forms emotional bonds that transcend logic. It's considered a weakness by most other races. But not by you? I'm beginning to think it might be a strength. She paused. The willingness to sacrifice yourself for strangers, for abstract principles. It's not logical, but it's powerful. They approached Bay 12 from the station's shadow side, using the massive structure to mask their heat signature. Marcus had to admit Vexaria's modifications were impressive, their stealth field held even under active scanning. Docking sequence initiated, Marcus announced as they slipped into the empty bay. So far, so good. The bay was clearly designed for cargo vessels, with automated systems that barely registered their arrival. Marcus powered down the engines while Vexaria gathered equipment from the ship's storage compartments. These will help, she said, handing him what looked like a standard utility belt. Magnetic grips, emergency oxygen, and a neural translator. Translator? The council chamber has species that communicate through methods other than speech. Pheromones, electromagnetic fields, color changes. The translator will help you understand. Marcus strapped on the equipment, testing the magnetic grips on a nearby bulkhead. They held his weight easily. How do you know so much about station operations? Sanguinari Intelligence maintains detailed files on all major diplomatic facilities, Vexaria admitted. Know your enemies, know your friends, and know the difference. Which category do humans fall into? That's what we're about to find out. They accessed the maintenance tunnels through a service hatch near the cargo handling systems. The tunnels were larger than Marcus had expected, clearly designed to accommodate multiple species. But as they moved deeper into the station, the passages branched and narrowed. This way, Vexaria indicated a passage that looked barely wide enough for Marcus's shoulders. The diplomatic level is directly above us. Above us? The council chamber is built with artificial gravity orientated in multiple directions. Up is relative. Marcus squeezed through the narrow passage, following Vexaria's lead. Behind them, the ship's automated systems began receiving docking queries from station control. They had maybe an hour before someone investigated their cargo bay personally. The passage opened into a larger junction where multiple tunnel systems met. Vexaria consulted a small device that projected holographic schematics. The chamber is that way. She pointed to a passage that curved upward. But there's something else you need to know. More complications? The council is in emergency session. The Krathari have presented evidence that the Sanguinari are planning aggressive expansion into neutral zones. Marcus stopped moving. Are they? No. But someone has been very careful to make it look that way. Let me guess. The same someone who's allied with the Devourers. The Krathari are more clever than we gave them credit for, Vexaria said grimly. They're positioning themselves as the protectors of smaller species against sanguinary aggression, while secretly planning to feed those same species to space vampires. Essentially, yes. They continued through the tunnels, which grew more complex as they neared the diplomatic sections. Marcus began to hear sounds from above, voices in multiple languages, the hum of translation equipment, and occasional sounds he couldn't identify. Here, Vexaria indicated a service panel. This leads to the observation gallery. We can reach the main chamber from there. And then what? We just walk in and announce that the Krathari are lying? Something like that. Vexaria's smile was sharp, though it might be more dramatic than a simple announcement. The service panel opened into a maintenance crawl space that ran behind the observation gallery. Through gaps in the panelwork, Marcus could see the council chamber itself, The chamber was huge, with seating arranged in concentric circles around a central speaking platform. Representatives from dozens of species filled the seats, while automated translation equipment provided real-time interpretation. The architecture accommodated everything from aquatic species in environmental suits to gas-form entities that existed as contained energy fields. At the central platform, a Krathari representative was speaking in their harsh, guttural language. The translation came through speakers throughout the chamber. The sanguinary military buildup threatens every peaceful species in this sector, the Krathari was saying. Their recent actions prove they no longer respect territorial boundaries. Marcus looked at Vexaria. What actions? Fabricated ones, she whispered back. But convincing fabrications. A holographic display showed what appeared to be sanguinary ships attacking civilian transports. The footage looked authentic, complete with identifying markings and weapon signatures. That's impossible, Vexaria breathed. Those ships were destroyed 6 months ago in a raid. How are they? Recordings can be altered, Marcus pointed out, especially if you have the right technology. Or, Vexaria said slowly, if you have allies who specialize in consuming and replicating other species. The implications hit Marcus like a physical blow. The Devourers can copy ships? They can copy anything organic. If they've consumed sanguinary crews, they could replicate our technology, our tactics, even individual officers. In the chamber below, the Krathari representative was concluding his presentation. The evidence is clear. The sanguinari represent an immediate threat to galactic peace. We propose joint military action to contain this aggression before it spreads. Several species representatives began voicing agreement. Marcus could see the tide of opinion shifting against the sanguinari, exactly as the Krathari had planned. We need to get down there, Marcus said. Getting there isn't the problem, Vexaria replied. It's surviving long enough to present our evidence. What evidence? You said you had proof of the alliance. I do. Vexaria pulled out a small crystalline device. Krathari communication logs, devourer attack patterns, and financial records showing payment to mercenary groups. How did you get all that? The same raid where those ships were supposedly destroyed. I was the only survivor. Marcus stared at her. You were there? You saw this happen? I saw my squadron get consumed by creatures that shouldn't exist. I saw our ships replicated and turned against civilian targets. And I saw Krathari officers coordinating the entire operation. So why doesn't your father believe you? Because the Krathari provided evidence that I defected, made a deal with pirates to fake the attack and steal the intelligence. Her voice turned bitter. Apparently, I'm the traitor in this scenario. But the blood debt thing means I protect you, not that my own species will listen to me. Marcus looked down at the council chamber where the debate was growing more heated. Representatives were choosing sides and most seemed to be siding with the Krathari. Then we changed the game, he said. What? You have the evidence. I have something they've never seen before. Which is? A human who doesn't know when to quit. Marcus pulled out his plasma pistol and checked the charge. Think you can get us to that speaking platform? Probably. But it'll be loud and violent. Good, Marcus said, surprising himself with his own determination. I'm tired of being subtle. Vexaria's smile showed all her fangs. Now you're thinking like a sanguinari. No, Marcus corrected, opening the access panel to the chamber. I'm thinking like a human, and apparently that's exactly what this situation needs. The access panel led to a service ladder that descended directly behind the speaking platform. Marcus could hear the Krathari representative fielding questions from the assembly, his voice growing more confident as support solidified around his position. Ready? Marcus asked. Ready, Vexaria confirmed. Marcus kicked open the service panel and dropped into the council chamber. Landing hard on the speaking platform directly behind the startled Krathari, The chamber erupted in chaos as security forces moved to respond, but Marcus was already moving. "My name is Marcus Chen," he announced, his voice amplified by the chamber's speakers. "I'm a human engineer, and I have information that will save billions of lives." The Krathari representative lunged for him, but Vexaria dropped from the ceiling like a shadow, interposing herself between Marcus and the alien warrior. Her movement was so fast that most of the assembly barely saw her arrive. "I am Vexaria of the Sanguinari," she declared, "and I invoke right of truth before this assembly." The chamber fell silent. Right of truth was an ancient diplomatic protocol that required all parties to hear evidence before taking action. It couldn't be denied without just cause. "The evidence against the Sanguinari is fabricated," Marcus continued, his heart pounding, "and the species presenting it has allied with the Devourers to harvest entire worlds." The Krathari representative hissed something that didn't translate well, but the meaning was clear enough. Security forces were moving closer, but they had to respect the right of truth until it was formally invoked or denied. "Show them," Marcus said to Vexaria. She activated the crystalline device, and holographic data filled the chamber. Communication logs, attack patterns, financial records, everything they needed to prove the conspiracy. But as the evidence displayed, Marcus noticed something troubling. Several species representatives weren't looking at the data. They were looking at each other with expressions that seemed almost relieved. "They already know," Marcus realized, his voice carrying across the suddenly quiet chamber. "Some of them," Vexaria confirmed grimly. "The Krathari weren't the only ones who made deals with the Devourers." The chamber erupted into chaos again, but this time it was different. Species were choosing sides not based on the evidence, but based on alliances that had apparently been forming for months. "Well," Marcus said, drawing his weapon as hostile forces closed in from multiple directions, "at least we got their attention." "Indeed," Vexaria replied, her claws extending. "Now let's see if we can survive long enough for it to matter." The council chamber descended into chaos as species representatives revealed their true loyalties. Marcus found himself back-to-back with Vexaria on the speaking platform, surrounded by hostile forces from at least 6 different species. The carefully maintained diplomatic protocols of centuries collapsed in minutes. "Well," Marcus said, adjusting his grip on the plasma pistol, "this could have gone better." "Actually," Vexaria replied, her claws gleaming in the chamber's lights, "this is going exactly as I hoped." "What?" "Watch the ones who aren't trying to kill us." Marcus glanced around the chamber while keeping his weapon trained on the advancing Krathari security forces. Several species representatives were backing away from the violence, but they weren't leaving. They were organizing, forming their own defensive positions. "The Altarians, the Centauri Collective, even the Zephyrian hive mind," Vexaria continued. "They're forming a counter-alliance right now." "Great. A civil war in the Galactic Council. That'll save billions of lives." "It will," Vexaria said seriously, "because now everyone knows where everyone else stands. No more hidden alliances, no more secret deals with the Devourers." The first wave of attackers reached the platform. Marcus fired his plasma pistol, the modified mining laser punching through Krathari armor like paper. Beside him, Vexaria moved like liquid death, her enhanced speed and strength turning her into a one-person army. But they were still vastly outnumbered. "The evidence broadcast is still transmitting," Vexaria noted between strikes. "Every species in the sector is receiving this data simultaneously, including the Sanguinari fleet outside. Especially them." She ducked under a plasma blast and took out 2 attackers with a single sweep of her claws. "My father is many things, but he's not stupid. When he sees proof of Krathari deception..." Admiral Kethmore's voice suddenly echoed through the chamber's communication system. "All Sanguinari vessels, this is Admiral Kethmore. Initiate Protocol 7 immediately. Marcus didn't know what Protocol 7 meant, but the effect on the Chthari forces was immediate. They stopped advancing and began looking around nervously. "What's Protocol 7?" Marcus asked. "Joint Defense Pact activation," Vexaria explained with satisfaction. "The Sanguinari fleet just allied with the station's defensive systems." Through the chamber's transparent aluminum viewing ports, Marcus could see the space battle beginning. Sanguinari ships that had been holding threatening positions moments before were now moving to intercept Chthari vessels attempting to flee. "The ones who made deals with the Devourers are trying to run," Marcus observed. "Let them try." Vexaria's smile was fierce. "Sanguinari ships are faster." The fighting in the chamber was winding down as it became clear which side had the advantage. Several species that had initially supported the Chthari were now switching sides, claiming they had been deceived. Politics in action, Marcus reflected cynically. But the real revelation came when the chamber's main display activated, showing feeds from across the sector. The evidence Vexaria had provided wasn't just reaching diplomatic channels. It was being broadcast on every civilian communication network. "You're making this public?" Marcus asked. "Every species has a right to know their government's true loyalties," Vexaria replied. "Let the people decide if they want to be fed to the Devourers." On the displays, Marcus could see the immediate effects. Protests were erupting on Chthari worlds as civilians learned about their leaders' alliance with the Planet Eaters. Similar demonstrations were spreading to other species that had secretly joined the conspiracy. "This is going to destabilize half the sector," Marcus pointed out. "Better destabilized than digested," Vexaria countered. The Altarian representative, a tall being with crystalline features, approached the platform cautiously. His translator rendered his thoughts in precise, mathematical language. "The probability calculations are clear," he said. "The Devourers represent an extinction-level threat to all organic life. Cooperation is the only logical response." "Cooperation." Marcus lowered his weapon. "What kind of cooperation?" "Military alliance, shared intelligence, joint research into Devourer weaknesses," the Altarian replied. "Your species possesses qualities that our analysis suggests may be crucial to success." "Such as?" "Adaptive problem-solving, resistance to psychological manipulation, and tactical unpredictability," came the reply. "The Devourers consume knowledge along with physical matter. They learn their prey's weaknesses and exploit them. But human behavior patterns resist prediction." Vexaria nodded approvingly. "I told you your unpredictability was valuable." Marcus looked around the chamber, where representatives from dozens of species were beginning to form planning groups. The conspiracy was collapsing, but something new was being born in its place. "Where are the Devourers now?" Marcus asked. "Unknown," the Altarian admitted. "They exist in deep space between solar systems. Our long-range sensors occasionally detect consumption events, entire worlds going dark. But we cannot predict their movements." "I can," Vexaria said quietly. "I've studied their attack patterns. There's a logic to their movements, a progression." "Show us," requested a new voice. Marcus turned to see Admiral Kethmore himself entering the chamber, flanked by Sanguinari guards. The Admiral was an imposing figure, clearly related to Vexaria, but carrying an air of command that made Marcus want to stand at attention. "Father," Vexaria said carefully. "Daughter," he replied with equal formality. "Your evidence has been illuminating. Perhaps I was premature in my judgment." "Perhaps." "Very well, I was wrong. Completely and dangerously wrong." Admiral Kethmore's expression softened slightly. "I nearly condemned our species to extinction through political calculation." "The Devourers don't respect political boundaries," Vexaria said. "They consume everything." So I'm beginning to understand. The Admiral turned to Marcus. You are the human who aided my daughter? I am, Marcus replied, unsure of the proper protocol. Then the Sanguinari owe you a debt. Admiral Kethmore's formal tone carried undertones Marcus couldn't interpret. What would you have of us? Right now, help stopping the Devourers before they eat everything. A worthy goal. The Admiral activated a holographic display showing stellar positions. Show us these patterns you've identified. Vexaria moved to the display, her fingers dancing over the controls. Star systems appeared and disappeared, showing a timeline of Devourer attacks spanning decades. Here, she indicated a section of space near the galactic rim. They work systematically, consuming entire regions before moving to the next. But they're not random. They target systems with specific characteristics. Such as? Admiral Kethmore asked. High population density, diverse species interaction, and advanced technology, Vexaria explained. They're not just feeding on biomass. They're consuming accumulated knowledge, cultural development, technological innovation. Marcus studied the pattern. They're eating civilization itself. Precisely. And based on their progression, Vexaria highlighted several star systems. These are their next targets. Marcus felt his blood go cold. Those systems have billions of inhabitants. Had, corrected the Altarian representative. 2 of those systems went dark while we were conducting this session. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The Devourers weren't coming. They were already here, actively consuming inhabited worlds while the galaxy's representatives had been arguing about territorial disputes. How long do we have? Marcus asked. Based on their consumption rate, Vexaria calculated rapidly. 6 months before they reach the core systems. Maybe less if they split their forces. Can they be stopped? Admiral Kethmore's question carried the weight of species survival. Unknown, the Altarian replied. Previous encounters resulted in complete consumption of defending forces, but those defenders fought separately, using conventional tactics. And we're not conventional, Marcus said, an idea beginning to form. At least humans aren't. Explain, Admiral Kethmore commanded. Marcus looked around the chamber, seeing representatives from dozens of species, each with their own unique capabilities and perspectives. Every species here has something the Devourers haven't encountered before. Alone, we're prey. Together we become something new, Vexaria finished, understanding. Something they can't predict or counter. A hybrid force, the Altarian representative calculated aloud. Human unpredictability, Sanguinari speed and ferocity, Altarian analytical precision, Centauri collective intelligence. The sum being greater than its parts, Admiral Kethmore concluded. But can such cooperation be sustained under combat conditions? Only one way to find out, Marcus said. We go hunting. Hunting? Vexaria raised an eyebrow. The Devourers are vastly more powerful than any single ship or fleet. But they're used to prey that runs away or dies fighting conventionally, Marcus pointed out. What if instead of running or fighting, we do something completely different? Such as, Marcus grinned, feeling the same reckless determination that had led him to help a wounded alien vampire on a mining planet. We study them, learn how they work, and then we turn their own methods against them. Admiral Kethmore exchanged glances with the other representatives. You're proposing we deliberately engage entities that consume entire worlds? I'm proposing we stop thinking like prey, Marcus replied. The Devourers are successful because they're apex predators in a galaxy full of species that think defensively. But humans didn't become the dominant species on Earth by running away from bigger predators. How did you become dominant? The Altarian asked, genuine curiosity in his translated voice. We learned to hunt in packs, Marcus said simply, and we learned to use tools. Vexaria's smile was predatory. I like this plan. It's not a plan yet, Marcus admitted. It's barely even an idea, but it's better than waiting for them to eat us. The human is correct, the Altarian announced after a moment of rapid calculation. Passive defense has a 0% success probability. Aggressive investigation offers a small but non-zero chance of survival. Then we're agreed, Admiral Kethmore declared. Joint operations against the Devourer threat with human tactical concepts and multi-species implementation. There's one more thing, Marcus said. If we're going to hunt the Devourers, we need to understand how they think, how they operate. That means getting close enough to study them. Suicidally close, Vexaria observed. Probably, but someone has to do it. Someone already has, she said quietly. I was there when they consumed my squadron. I saw how they operate. Marcus looked at her with new respect. You want to go back? I want to finish what they started, she corrected. They made it personal when they ate my friends and used their forms to commit atrocities. Admiral Kethmore studied his daughter. This is not about duty. No, she admitted. It's about justice. And about making sure no one else has to watch their comrades get dissolved and replicated. Then we go together, Marcus said. Human, sanguinari, and whoever else is crazy enough to volunteer. I volunteer, the Altarian representative announced. This puzzle requires solution. As do I, came a new voice. Marcus turned to see a Centauri collective speaker, her mental projections translating as harmonized music. The hive mind finds this cooperation intriguing. More voices joined in, representatives from species Marcus had never even heard of. Within minutes, an unprecedented alliance was forming, united by the simple recognition that they faced extinction if they didn't work together. Very well, Admiral Kethmore said formally. By the authority vested in me by the sanguinari hegemony, I hereby establish Joint Task Force Alpha, with the mission of investigating and neutralizing the Devourer threat. And I volunteer to lead the first reconnaissance mission, Marcus added. We volunteer, Vexaria corrected. This partnership seems to work. Marcus looked at the alien woman who had changed his life in a single night. From a lonely mining engineer to the co-leader of an interspecies task force hunting cosmic predators. It wasn't the career change he'd ever imagined, but somehow it felt right. Think we can actually pull this off? He asked quietly. Probably not, she replied honestly. But the attempt will be memorable. Good enough for me. As the council chamber transformed into an impromptu military planning center, with representatives from dozens of species working together for the first time in galactic history, Marcus reflected on how much had changed since he'd found a wounded alien vampire in his storage facility. He'd helped a stranger in need, and somehow that simple act of compassion had catalyzed the formation of the largest military alliance in galactic history. Maybe humans really did have something unique to offer the galaxy after all. Marcus, Vexaria said, interrupting his thoughts. The reconnaissance mission launches in 6 hours. Are you ready? Marcus checked his equipment, looked around at the allies who had rallied to their cause, and thought about the impossible odds they faced. No, he said honestly, but let's do it anyway. Now you're definitely thinking like a sanguinari, she laughed. No, Marcus corrected with a grin. I'm thinking like a human. And apparently, that's exactly what this galaxy needs. The stars awaited, and somewhere among them, the Devourers continued their ancient feast. But for the first time in eons, their prey was preparing to bite back. And Marcus Chen, formerly a lonely mining engineer, was about to discover that sometimes helping a stranger can change not just your life, but the fate of entire civilizations. The hunt was about to begin.